It's a weird thing, waking up one day and realizing that you've been waiting for some magical moment when everything aligns perfectly. You tell yourself that eventually, everything will fall into place, that someday you'll feel motivated and ready to take on the world. But here you are, still waiting. You probably think this is the moment where I start lecturing about how bad procrastination is and how you should immediately snap out of it. But here's the thing, procrastination doesn't feel bad in the moment. It's that warm, familiar feeling of comfort. It's telling yourself that you'll get to it tomorrow or next week or after your break. The problem is, one day you wake up and all those tomorrows have slipped by without you even noticing. You look around and realize you've been putting off the life you wanted for far too long. It's a bit of a slap in the face, honestly, because somewhere deep down, you know you could have had it all if you hadn't been waiting for the right time. It's like waiting for a train that never shows up, but somehow, you convince yourself that the train is coming soon. That's the trap. The more you wait, the more you put off, the more you fool yourself into thinking the time isn't right yet. And let's face it, the time will never be right. The perfect moment doesn't exist. You create it with every action you take, but only if you stop waiting. But this isn't just a story about procrastination, not really. It's about the dream that's been sitting there, just out of reach, while you keep telling yourself you'll get to it eventually. The price of procrastination isn't just the things you fail to accomplish. It's the life you wanted but don't have, because you didn't make the move when you should have. Funny thing about life, if you don't grab it by the horns, it tends to just pass you by. And the worst part? You'll never get that time back. It's gone. It doesn't matter how many motivational quotes you scroll past on Instagram, or how many videos you watch promising you the secret to success. At the end of the day, it's not about the knowledge you have, it's about what you do with it. But that's the thing, isn't it? Procrastination makes you feel like you're doing something by thinking about it. You convince yourself that planning and imagining are enough. And for a while they are. But eventually, those plans pile up into regret, and all that imagination turns into nothing more than a mental exercise. You've probably been there. You know the drill. You sit down to work, but the thoughts of other things pop up. I'll just check my email, or maybe I should organize my desk. Then suddenly, hours have passed, and you've done nothing except get lost in distractions. You think to yourself, it's fine. I'll make up for it later. And later never comes. Before you know it, you're stuck in a loop of indecision, telling yourself you'll get started tomorrow. You can keep doing this for years. In fact, you probably have. And as the years pass, the frustration mounts. The frustration of knowing you could have done more. The frustration of seeing other people move forward while you stay exactly where you are. You want to change, but the thought of starting seems too overwhelming. So you put it off again. And that's where the cycle begins. But here's the harsh truth. Procrastination isn't just a time waster. It's a dream killer. Every moment you waste waiting for the right time is a moment you could have spent building the life you want. You're not waiting for a perfect moment. You're waiting for permission. And that's something only you can give yourself. But how do you break out of this cycle? There's something deceptively comfortable about procrastination. It doesn't feel like a problem at first. In fact, it feels like the opposite. The momentary relief you get when you put off the hard stuff is like sinking into your favorite chair at the end of a long day. It's cozy, it's familiar, and it's easy. It's almost like a warm blanket that keeps you from facing the harshness of responsibility. But comfort doesn't make a good life. It makes a good nap. At first, procrastination is justifiable. I'm not ready, you tell yourself. I need more time to plan. And sure, planning is important. But there's a difference between planning and stalling. Planning moves you forward. Stalling freezes you in place. The trick is, you don't realize you're stalling until it's too late. You get caught in this fog where every task, every decision, seems like it's too much for today. So, you keep putting it off, and the fog thickens. But it's not just about putting things off. It's about creating an illusion of control. You feel like you're in charge, deciding when the right time is to start. But that's the trick. You never realize that you're giving away your power by avoiding the task in the first place. You might find yourself saying things like, I work better under pressure, or I need to wait for the perfect inspiration. The truth is, pressure doesn't make you better at your job. It just makes you scramble at the last minute, hoping for some miracle. And inspiration? Well, it doesn't arrive on your timeline either. You can't sit around waiting for it. The reality is, Inspiration only comes when you've done the work, when you've put in the effort, even when it's hard. But it's easy to buy into that comfortable lie. You convince yourself that you'll get to it eventually. And because it feels like progress, you don't notice that you're not moving forward at all. That's the insidious nature of procrastination. It disguises itself as self-care, or even as a form of productivity. But it isn't. I'm not saying that rest isn't important. Of course it is. Everyone needs time to recharge. But procrastination isn't about rest. It's about avoidance. It's about the moment when you choose the temporary comfort of distraction over the discomfort of doing something that's going to help you in the long run. And the more you avoid, the harder it becomes to face reality. The weird part is, you still know that you're not really accomplishing anything. Deep down, you know that every time you delay, you're moving further away from your goals. But somehow, you keep convincing yourself that this is just a phase, that eventually, you'll snap out of it. The problem is, that phase never ends. Even though procrastination feels comforting, it's actually making you more anxious. The longer you avoid the hard stuff, the more it weighs on your mind. You start feeling guilty, frustrated, and overwhelmed. But it's a vicious cycle. The more you avoid it, the worse it gets. And the more pressure mounts, the harder it becomes to get started. At this point, procrastination becomes less of a choice and more of a habit. A bad habit. And habits are hard to break. If you're always putting things off, it becomes ingrained in your routine. You've probably heard that it takes 21 days to form a habit. Well, procrastination is a habit too, one that starts to feel natural, even though it's actually sabotaging you every step of the way. But you're not the only one in this mess. Everyone procrastinates. It's human, but not everyone lets it control them. The difference is that some people get tired of the lie and decide to face it head on. They get tired of the comfort that turns into a prison. And it's at that moment, that defining point, where things start to change. But that won't happen until you realize the cost of your procrastination. Procrastination isn't just about time. It's about what you're trading away. Every minute you spend avoiding something is a minute you can never get back. And before long, you'll look back and realize that the life you want isn't just out of reach. It's gone. You know that feeling when you promise yourself that you'll start tomorrow, but when tomorrow comes, you find yourself saying, "I'll just start the day after." It's the kind of lie that's so easy to believe, but it's also the beginning of a vicious cycle. Tomorrow always feels like a fresh start, but every time you put it off, you push that fresh start further down the road. And after a while, tomorrow doesn't come at all. It's like standing in front of a massive mountain and convincing yourself that you're going to climb it eventually. But the longer you stand there, the bigger and more intimidating that mountain becomes. The task you're avoiding feels like a giant that looms over you, casting a shadow over your life. And instead of facing it, you let it grow, feeding it with every excuse you make. The problem isn't just the delay. It's the compounding effect of every day you put it off. You tell yourself, "I'll do it later," but later never comes. The longer you avoid something, the more it seems to grow in your mind. And suddenly, the task you once could have handled becomes this monumental effort that you can't imagine ever conquering. It's as if procrastination turns everything into a mountain, no matter how small the task was when you first thought about it. This is where the real trouble begins. Because now, you've created a pattern of inaction, and it's eating away at your sense of control. You're stuck in a loop of self-doubt and frustration, where the simplest tasks seem impossible. Every time you look at your to-do list, you feel a sense of panic creeping up on you. You know there's so much to do, but the idea of tackling it feels completely overwhelming. It's ironic, isn't it? How the more you procrastinate, the less control you feel you have over your own life. You tell yourself that you're in charge, that you'll take care of things when the time is right. But the more you wait, the more time slips through your fingers. And it's not just time you lose, it's opportunities. The things you could have done, the goals you could have achieved, are all left in the dust because you kept pushing them away. There's a common myth that the pressure of an impending deadline will somehow make you perform better. The idea is that you'll work faster and more efficiently as the clock ticks down. But here's the truth. That's a coping mechanism, not a strategy. While you may get the job done at the last minute, you're not working at your best. In fact, the last-minute scramble often leads to mistakes, stress, and a sense of dissatisfaction when the task is done. And that pressure? It doesn't feel like productivity. It feels like panic. You might get something done, but at what cost? The scary thing is that this becomes your new normal. You stop trusting yourself. You start to believe that this is just how you work, that you need the pressure of a deadline or the looming shadow of consequences to get anything done. But that's not true. It's just another way procrastination keeps you in its grip. You might think you've got it under control because you've done this dance before. You've made it through stressful deadlines and late-night cram sessions. You've convinced yourself that this is how you operate, and maybe, for a while, it works. But deep down, you know that it's not sustainable. You know it's not the way you want to live. And the thing is that pressure you think helps you perform? It doesn't. It just forces you to make things happen in the worst possible way. You rush. You cut corners. You sacrifice quality for speed. And that leads to dissatisfaction. You might cross off items from your to-do list, but that feeling of accomplishment is hollow because you know you didn't give it your best. It's like buying something you don't really need just to fill the space for a moment. It doesn't last, and it doesn't satisfy. So, the procrastination cycle continues. You tell yourself that tomorrow is the day you'll start fresh, but tomorrow never comes. The mountain keeps growing. The tasks keep piling up. And you're stuck in the illusion that tomorrow will be the day you get everything together. But if you don't change anything, tomorrow will just be another today. And before you know it, you'll be back at square one, wondering where all that time went. But it doesn't have to be this way. Breaking this cycle isn't easy, but it's possible. It starts with a decision, a commitment to change. It starts with realizing that tomorrow isn't a magic fix. It's just another opportunity to make a choice. You can keep putting things off, or you can decide to start now, no matter how small the step. The real question is, are you going to keep waiting, or are you finally going to take control? It's a strange thing, this illusion of control that procrastination gives you. You think you're the one calling the shots, deciding when to act and when to hold off. But in reality, procrastination has the power, not you. It tricks you into believing that putting things off is a choice, when in fact, it's a subtle form of surrender. Every time you put off something important, you're giving in to your own distractions, your own doubts, your own avoidance. Procrastination can feel deceptively empowering in the moment. It tricks you into thinking you're making a conscious choice, that you're waiting for the perfect timing, or that the pressure of a looming deadline will somehow unlock your best work. It feels strategic, even responsible. But that sense of control is an illusion. What you're really doing is avoiding discomfort, dodging the fear of not doing well enough, or the overwhelm of starting. The longer you delay, the more that illusion crumbles, leaving behind stress, regret, and lost momentum. The truth is, procrastination isn't just about laziness, it's about fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of what might happen if you actually step up and do the work. You start to realize that the only thing procrastination is really controlling is your future. You think you're in charge, but every time you delay something, you lose a little more of the life you want. There's an unsettling moment when the weight of it all starts to settle in. You see it in the little things, the missed opportunities, the goals you've left on the back burner, the relationships you've neglected. At first, they seem insignificant. I'll get to it, you say? But then, you blink, and months pass. Those things you kept telling yourself you'd do eventually are now ghosts, haunting you with the nagging feeling that you could have done better. The worst part of this is that procrastination isn't just about big projects or long-term goals. It seeps into every area of your life. It affects your personal growth, your relationships, your health, and your happiness. You keep pushing things off, telling yourself that you'll eat healthier tomorrow, that you'll start that workout routine next week, that you'll finally have that difficult conversation when the time feels right. But guess what? The time never feels right. Life doesn't stop for you to get your act together. And before you know it, you're looking back at all the moments you could have acted on, and you start to feel this sinking feeling. You could have been living a better life, but procrastination kept you from even starting. It's easy to think you're in control of the situation, to tell yourself that you're waiting for the perfect moment to make your move. But that perfect moment is a myth. It's like waiting for a unicorn to show up and hand you the keys to success. That moment will never come. The longer you wait for it, the more time you waste, and the further you drift from the life you could have been building. Here's the hard truth. You can't wait for things to change. You can't wait for the stars to align. The only way to break free from procrastination's grip is to start now. Yes, right now. It doesn't matter if the timing isn't perfect, if you're not feeling ready, or if you don't know every step you need to take. The key is to stop waiting for permission. The key is to take that first step, however small it may be, and start moving forward. And yes, that's the hardest part. Starting. Because once you take that first step, the fear of failure starts to dissipate. You stop imagining the worst-case scenarios and start seeing the possibilities. You realize that success isn't about waiting for the perfect time. It's about acting despite the uncertainty. The magic happens when you commit to taking action, even when you're unsure of the outcome. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It can be something small, sending an email you've been putting off, writing that first paragraph, scheduling that appointment. But the key is to do something. Anything. The longer you sit still, the more power procrastination has over you. The minute you start moving, you take that power back. I know it's scary. I know it feels like there's too much to do, too many things you've been putting off for too long. But if you don't start now, when will you start? If you keep waiting for everything to align, you're going to find yourself in the same place a year from now, still waiting. And that's a fate worse than failure. Inaction is the greatest form of failure because it guarantees you'll never get where you want to go. But action, even small action, is the only way to move forward. So, take that first step today. Stop waiting for permission. Start now. Time is a sneaky little thief, isn't it? It slips through your fingers without you even realizing it. 1 minute, you're planning your future, and the next, you're looking back at years that seem to have vanished into thin air. It's strange how time works. How the moments seem endless when you're young, and then, just like that, it feels like it's running out. You know the old saying, time flies when you're having fun. But what they don't tell you is that it also flies when you're not paying attention. You don't really notice how much time you're wasting until it's too late. It's easy to tell yourself that you have plenty of time to get things done. But the problem with time is that it has a funny way of disappearing when you least expect it. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before you know it, you've spent a year, or more, putting off what you could have done in a fraction of the time. You might feel like you're in control, but in reality, time is controlling you. Time is the most valuable resource you'll ever have, and unlike money, it's non-renewable. Once a moment passes, it's gone forever. You can't save it for later, can't earn more of it, and no matter how much you wish you could rewind, you never get that time back. Every choice you make about how you spend your time is a vote for the kind of life you're building. So when you procrastinate or waste hours on things that don't move you forward, you're not just killing time. You're giving up pieces of your future. Think about it for a second. How many times have you thought, I'll do it later? Maybe it's something big, like that project you've been procrastinating on for weeks. Or maybe it's something small, like responding to that email or cleaning out your closet. But those small moments of procrastination add up. They compound. And before you know it, they have a massive impact on your life. Every hour you waste, every day you delay, is an opportunity lost. Opportunities that could have led to personal growth, to progress, to things you can never get back. The scariest part? You can't measure time in a way that's immediately noticeable. You won't realize you've wasted a month or two until it's already gone. It's only when you look back, when you're forced to confront the truth, that you see the full cost of your delay. And that's when regret starts to set in. The worst part is that procrastination often feels like you're accomplishing something, when in fact, you're doing the opposite. When you avoid a task, you tell yourself it's not the right time, or that you need more information, or that you'll be more motivated later. But what you're really doing is creating a backlog of unfinished business, a pile of things that are slowly weighing you down. And the longer you let them pile up, the more overwhelming they become. What you don't realize is that by procrastinating, you're giving up your future. The time you're not using now is the time you'll never have again. It's not just about missing deadlines or failing to meet goals. It's about the life you could have had. Every time you delay, you're not just putting off a task, you're putting off your dreams, your aspirations, your future happiness. Time doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care how busy you are or how tired you feel. It just keeps moving, whether you're ready for it or not. So, while you might feel like you're in control, the truth is, time is the one calling the shots. And once you realize that, it's too late to go back. Now, I'm not saying you need to be perfect. I'm not saying you should be working nonstop without taking breaks or enjoying life. But I am saying that if you're serious about your goals, if you're serious about the life you want to create, you need to stop wasting time. You need to stop putting things off for tomorrow and start taking action today. Because here's the bottom line: time doesn't wait for you. It moves on, with or without you. And if you don't make the most of it, you'll wake up one day and realize that the life you wanted was never actually out of reach. You just didn't act on it when you had the chance. The clock is ticking, and time is slipping away. The question is, are you going to keep letting it slip by, or are you finally going to take control of it? There's a point when you can no longer ignore the consequences of your actions, or, more accurately, the inaction. The day arrives when the weight of everything you've put off becomes too much to bear. It's like the ground beneath you suddenly cracks open, and you fall into this abyss of regret and realization. For a while, procrastination felt like a safety net, a cushion that allowed you to avoid the difficult things. But now, that net is gone. You're falling, and it's a long drop. You've probably been there. You tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," and then the days slip by, unnoticed. But eventually, you run out of tomorrows. The deadline comes crashing down, and you're left with nothing but the chaos of trying to catch up. The tasks you've been avoiding don't just disappear because you ignored them. They grow, they pile up, and now they're staring you in the face, demanding to be dealt with. It's like trying to outrun a storm, only to realize that you're in the middle of it, and there's no escaping it. It's a wake-up call, one that you can't ignore anymore. The consequences of your procrastination are no longer hypothetical, they're real. Missed opportunities, failed projects, or relationships left to wither because you didn't act in time. These are the things that start to sting when procrastination has done its damage. You can't go back and fix the things you missed, no matter how much you wish you could. But you can still change. No matter how much time you think you've wasted or how far behind you feel, there's always a chance to take a different path. The sting of regret is real, but it can also be a wake-up call. It's the point where you look yourself in the mirror and ask, what now? Yes, you've lost time. That's the truth. But you don't have to keep losing it. You still have this moment. You still have the next decision, the next hour, the next day. The past might have shaped where you are, but it doesn't have to shape where you're going. Your future is still unwritten, and it's yours to create. You can't keep going down the same road, hoping that this time will be different. If you want a different outcome, you have to change the way you approach things. That means taking responsibility for where you are right now. It means acknowledging that procrastination has cost you more than you're willing to admit, but also that you're capable of turning things around. The hardest part isn't realizing you've made mistakes. It's realizing that you have the power to correct them. The worst thing you can do in this situation is to spiral into shame or guilt. Yes, you've messed up. Yes, procrastination has cost you. But wallowing in self-pity won't get you anywhere. The only thing that matters now is what you do next. You can either keep blaming the past, or you can use that pain as fuel to change. The choice is yours. It's time to face the music and deal with the consequences head-on. And here's the secret. While it may seem like the consequences are devastating in the moment, they also serve as the perfect motivator. The weight of your past mistakes can be the spark you need to break free from the procrastination cycle. It's like hitting rock bottom. You're forced to face the truth, and it's either sink or swim. But you have everything you need to swim. You just have to make the choice to start moving. The consequences may sting, but they also push you toward growth. They force you to confront the reality of your actions, and that's the first step toward change. It might take time to rebuild what procrastination has torn down, but it's not impossible. The road to recovery is long, but it starts with one decision: to stop letting procrastination dictate your life. To start taking action, even when it feels like it's too late. In the end, the consequences of procrastination are a bitter pill to swallow. But they're also a wake-up call, an invitation to finally take control. The pain of facing what you've lost is temporary, but the strength you gain from overcoming it will last a lifetime. It's strange how you can go from feeling completely stuck to suddenly being overwhelmed by a desire for change. Change doesn't seem possible when you're buried in the weight of your own procrastination, but eventually, the urge to do something different becomes undeniable. You start to crave it. You realize that the life you've been putting off isn't just some abstract dream anymore. It's something real that you want. And now, for the first time in what feels like ages, you're ready to take action. But it's not easy. There's this nagging voice that pops up, telling you it's too late, that things have gone too far. After all, how do you go from years of avoiding action to suddenly being the person who gets things done? The gap between the version of yourself that put things off and the version of yourself who takes charge is huge. And crossing that gap feels like the hardest thing you'll ever do. The tricky thing about change is that by the time you realize you want it, you've already spent years building up the belief that you can't have it. You've lived in the same patterns, told yourself the same excuses, and gotten comfortable with the discomfort. It starts to feel like that's just who you are. But deep down, there's a voice that knows better, a part of you that wants more, that's tired of settling, and that knows you're capable of something greater. The truth is, change isn't loud or dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or some grand transformation. It begins quietly. It begins with a choice, the choice to show up differently, even in a small way. And from that choice comes momentum. Not perfection, not immediate success, but movement. And that's what matters. Because real change isn't about flipping your life upside down overnight. It's about committing to small steps, taken again and again, until the old story you believed about yourself is no longer true. That's where you need to start. Stop focusing on the end goal and focus on the next step. You don't need to figure everything out right now. You just need to take the first action. And once you take that first step, the rest becomes a little easier. It's like rolling a boulder up a hill. At first, it's tough. It feels like it's never going to move. But once it starts rolling, it picks up momentum, and before you know it, it's easier to keep going. One of the biggest hurdles to overcome is the fear of failure. It's easy to look at all the things you've put off and think, I'm too far behind. But the truth is, the only failure is in never trying. If you never take the first step, you're guaranteed to stay stuck. If you try and stumble along the way, that's still progress. The fear of failing has kept you stuck for so long, but failure is part of the process. It's a sign that you're pushing boundaries, trying new things, and moving forward. The desire to change doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to involve a complete overhaul of your life. Change can be as simple as deciding to tackle the small tasks first. Those little victories add up. You might start by cleaning off your desk or finishing a small project you've been avoiding. And the more you accomplish, the more motivated you become. You begin to see how possible change is. It's not a mountain that's too big to climb. It's a series of small steps that can be conquered one at a time. And you don't have to do it alone. When you're ready to change, you'll find that the support you need is all around you. Whether it's friends, family, or even strangers online who share your struggles, there's a community of people who have gone through the same thing. They've been where you are, stuck in the cycle of procrastination and self-doubt, but they found their way out. And if they can do it, so can you. But it starts with one simple decision: to stop waiting, to stop making excuses, to stop letting procrastination control your life. It's a decision to step out of the comfort zone of inaction and into the discomfort of doing. Change is scary, but staying stuck is scarier. It's the fear of never reaching your potential, of always looking back and wondering what if. So what now? The hardest part is over. You've realized that you need change. You've realized that procrastination has been holding you back. Now it's time to move. The key is to take it one step at a time and to keep going, even when it feels difficult. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when you feel like giving up. But if you stick with it, if you keep moving forward, you'll start to see the life you've always wanted slowly take shape. The journey to change isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. You've taken the first step. Now keep going. The life you want is right there in front of you, waiting for you to show up. You know that moment when you realize that change doesn't come with a huge fanfare, but with the slow, steady march of routine? You thought that after the big decision to change, everything would just fall into place. You thought you'd wake up the next day and feel like a brand new person, ready to take on the world. But reality hits hard. Change is a marathon, not a sprint. And the worst part? The journey to change is uncomfortable. For the first time in a while, you're doing things that feel foreign to you. You're making decisions you used to avoid, tackling tasks that you've pushed aside, and facing the things you'd rather not confront. It's easy to look back and wish you hadn't spent so much time procrastinating, but that's the past, and it's not helping you now. The key to making real change is simple, but it's not easy. It's about consistency. Small, daily actions that build up over time. At first, you don't see much progress. You feel like you're barely moving, like you're stuck in place. But then, slowly, something starts to shift. Those little steps you're taking begin to add up, and you start to feel the momentum. And momentum is everything. Building new habits isn't something that happens overnight. It's like trying to steer a ship that's been heading in the wrong direction for years. At first, it feels impossible. You try to change, but the pull of old habits and routines feels stronger than your willpower. But here's the thing. Even the smallest change is progress. Even the smallest step forward is one step closer to where you want to be. You might fall into the trap of thinking that big changes need big actions. But here's the truth. Change happens in the small, seemingly insignificant moments. It happens when you choose to work for 10 minutes, when you would have procrastinated for hours. It happens when you take the time to make a phone call you've been avoiding or sit down to write the first paragraph of that paper you've put off for weeks. Those small victories aren't just about getting things done. They're about proving to yourself that you're capable of change. And as you build this momentum, you'll find that your confidence grows, too. You start to realize that the old version of yourself, the one who procrastinated, who avoided difficult things, isn't who you are anymore. That person is still there, lurking in the background, but with every small action you take, you push them further into the past. The new version of yourself starts to take shape, a version of you that gets things done, that embraces discomfort, and that doesn't shy away from hard work. It's amazing how much power you have over your own life. When you realize that, you stop waiting for things to happen to you. You stop waiting for the right moment, for the perfect time. You understand that the only way to make things happen is to take action. You start to believe that you deserve the life you want, and you stop letting procrastination steal it from you. The truth about change is that it's not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. There's no finish line where everything suddenly becomes easy and resistance disappears. Even when you've made progress, there will still be days when doubt resurfaces, when old habits try to pull you back into comfort. That's normal. Growth isn't linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and often uncomfortable. But the difference now is that you're aware. You've tasted what it feels like to take control, to choose action over avoidance. You've seen that you can do hard things, even when you don't feel ready. And that matters, because change isn't about getting it right every time. It's about showing up again and again. It's about persistence, not perfection. Each time you push forward, even in a small way, you build a new story about who you are. And that's how transformation becomes real. And it's in that moment of persistence that you start to build a life that you want. You stop waiting for permission, for the stars to align, for the perfect moment. You stop waiting for tomorrow. You start acting today. Because that's where real change happens. Right here, right now, in the present. What's even better is that, as you continue to take action, the fear of failure begins to fade. You realize that failure isn't the end. It's just part of the process. You don't have to be afraid of it anymore. You can embrace the setbacks, the mistakes, the challenges. They're just opportunities to grow, to learn, to get better. The difference now is that you no longer let them stop you. You don't wait for things to be perfect, because you know that perfect doesn't exist. You don't wait for the right time, because the right time is always now. You've learned that taking action, even when it's uncomfortable or scary, is the only way to truly live the life you've been waiting for. So what happens now? The journey isn't over, but it's no longer about waiting. It's about living. It's about making the most of every moment and creating the future you've always dreamed of. Change isn't easy, but it's possible. And it starts with one simple step. Today, it's strange how we often think that we have all the time in the world to make things right, only to wake up one day realizing that time doesn't wait. It's like this invisible clock ticking away, constantly reminding you that you've got limited time to make the changes you want. It's easy to push things off, to think that you can always do it tomorrow. But that tomorrow never comes. And the more you wait, the more you miss out on the opportunities that are right in front of you. When you finally get past the procrastination, when you finally start taking action, something unexpected happens. The world doesn't collapse. The mountains you've been avoiding don't seem so steep. In fact, you start to wonder why you were ever afraid of getting started in the first place. It turns out that the hardest part of doing anything isn't the task itself. It's the mental hurdle you put in front of it. The beauty of taking that first step is that it clears up all the fog. Once you begin, everything starts to make sense. You start to see how much you've been avoiding and how unnecessary the avoidance really was. The work doesn't seem so daunting once you dive in. It's like looking at a messy room and thinking it's too much to clean, But once you start picking up a few things, it doesn't feel like such an insurmountable task anymore. The key is to stop thinking about it as this massive project and just do the smallest possible thing. That's the shift. It's no longer about waiting for a perfect moment or some burst of motivation. It's about taking action, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels like it's not enough. The most important thing is to show up, to put in the effort, even when it doesn't feel perfect. Because the truth is, nothing will ever feel perfect. Life will always throw curveballs at you, and your progress won't always be smooth. But that doesn't mean you should stop. It means you should keep moving, one step at a time. The key to success isn't about grand gestures or huge changes. It's about consistency. Small, consistent actions over time will always outweigh sporadic bursts of effort. The people who succeed aren't the ones who waited for the right moment. They're the ones who showed up every day, even when it was hard, even when it felt like nothing was happening. They kept going, and eventually, they found success. You don't need to be perfect to make progress. You don't need to have all the answers or the perfect plan. What matters is that you keep showing up. Growth isn't always loud or obvious. It's often in the quiet, consistent choices you make every day. Choosing to start, choosing to keep going, even when it's hard. The idea isn't to become someone else overnight. It's to become a better version of yourself over time. When you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start acting in the moment you're in, that's when things begin to shift. Procrastination loses its grip, not because you've defeated it once and for all, but because you've decided to move anyway. You've taken your power back, not with dramatic change, but with steady intention. And from there, the real transformation begins. The best part of all this is that you don't have to go through it alone. The support is out there. Whether it's friends, family, or online communities, there are people who've been through the same thing. They've dealt with procrastination, they've struggled to get started, and they've come out on the other side. And you can, too. It's not about being perfect. It's about taking action, about making progress no matter how small it may seem. So, if you're sitting there wondering whether it's too late to start, let me tell you, it's never too late. The life you've been dreaming of, the person you want to become, it's all within reach. All you have to do is show up. Stop waiting for the perfect moment and make today the day you begin. The longer you wait, the further that dream gets. But if you start now, no matter how small the first step is, you'll be closer to your goal than you were yesterday. Take that first step, even if it feels scary, even if you're not sure what will happen. The only way to make progress is to start. And when you do, you'll see that the task wasn't as big or as impossible as you thought. In fact, you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. This is your moment. Take it. It's funny how often we think we need everything to be perfect before we can start. We convince ourselves that we'll be more motivated, more focused, or more ready when the conditions are just right. But here's the truth. The conditions will never be perfect. They'll never line up the way you want them to. Waiting for the perfect moment is just procrastination disguised as planning. Think about it. Have you ever said to yourself, I'll start working out after I get a gym membership, or I'll start writing that book when I have more time? That's the trap we fall into. We think that we need the perfect tools, the perfect timing, or the perfect mindset to begin. But what you don't realize is that the perfect time to start is always now. The perfect conditions will never appear because life isn't perfect. But that's okay. You don't need perfection. You need action. You see, when you wait for everything to be in place, you miss out on the opportunity to get better. You miss out on the opportunity to learn and grow along the way. Perfection is an illusion, and in the pursuit of it, you end up doing nothing. Progress doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency, discipline, and a willingness to start, even if it's messy. It's all too easy to get stuck in the planning phase, thinking that the more you plan, the more ready you'll be. But planning without action is just another form of procrastination. You can't plan your way to success. You have to do the work. And doing the work means accepting that it's not always going to go the way you imagined. It means accepting that there will be mistakes, setbacks, and failures along the way. But those things aren't the end. They're part of the process. They're part of the journey. The real key to progress is learning to act in the face of uncertainty. It's about moving forward even when you don't feel 100% ready. And let me tell you, you're never going to feel 100% ready. You'll always find a reason to wait. But when you start, even in small ways, you create momentum. And that momentum pushes you forward. It gets easier the more you do it. And you'll look back and realize that the small actions you took, the ones that didn't seem like much at the time, are the ones that made all the difference. It's not about waiting for a big breakthrough. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting that over time, things will change. And the change won't be immediate. It won't be obvious at first, but it will happen. The more you do, the more you'll see the results. You'll begin to realize that the life you've been dreaming of isn't some far-off fantasy. It's right here, within your reach, if you're willing to put in the work. You don't need to be perfect to make progress. In fact, you don't even need to be great. You just need to show up. You need to take that first step, then the next one, and the next one after that. It doesn't matter if it's messy. It doesn't matter if it's slow. What matters is that you're moving. The key isn't to do everything perfectly. It's to do something. The more you embrace imperfection, the less control procrastination has over you. You stop waiting for the ideal conditions. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop waiting for everything to fall into place. And instead, you start moving. Slowly, steadily, consistently. You begin to trust the process. You begin to trust yourself. And with each action you take, you're building the future you've been waiting for. So, here's the question: why wait for perfection? Why keep letting procrastination rob you of your potential? The truth is, you already have everything you need to get started. You don't need a perfect plan, a perfect mindset, or a perfect moment. You just need to take action, right now, even if it's just one small step. That's how progress happens. That's how change begins. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because it will never come. Start now. The time is always right now. You ever notice how easy it is to sabotage yourself? It's like you're your own worst enemy. You have all these dreams, these goals, and yet somehow, you're the one putting obstacles in your own way. You say things like, "I'll do it tomorrow," or "I'm just not ready yet." And before you know it, tomorrow never comes. But what's worse is that you convince yourself this is just how things are supposed to be. You tell yourself that your lack of progress is just bad luck, or that you're not one of those go-getter types. But the truth is, you're sabotaging yourself, and you might not even realize it. Self-sabotage isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. You might think you're just procrastinating, or that you're taking a break, but every moment you spend avoiding what you need to do is a choice to stand still. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that if you just take one step forward, you'll start moving. But instead, you hesitate. You wait. And in that moment, you're telling yourself that you're not capable, that you're not worthy of success, that you're better off not trying. What's crazy is that this self-sabotage is often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of change. We get so comfortable with the idea of staying exactly where we are, even if that means not reaching our potential. The fear of stepping into the unknown, of taking that leap, keeps us stuck. But what you have to realize is that by not taking action, you're choosing the certainty of failure over the possibility of success. And that certainty? It's holding you back. So, how do you break the cycle? How do you stop sabotaging your own progress? The first step is to recognize the patterns. Pay attention to those little moments when you make excuses or avoid doing the work. Those moments are the telltale signs of self-sabotage. Once you see them, you can start to make a conscious decision to do something different. You have to break the pattern by taking action, no matter how small. One of the most powerful things you can do is change your internal dialogue. The way you talk to yourself has a huge impact on what you believe you can achieve. If you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough, or that you'll never get it right, you're only reinforcing those beliefs. Instead, start telling yourself that you are capable, that you can handle whatever comes your way, and that even if things don't go perfectly, you'll still keep moving forward. Positive self-talk is a game changer. It's also about getting comfortable with discomfort. The reason we procrastinate and self-sabotage is because we're avoiding discomfort. But here's the truth. Discomfort is where growth happens. Every time you push through a challenge, you grow stronger. Every time you face the fear of failure and keep going anyway, you build resilience. That discomfort is a sign that you're on the right track. It's a sign that you're moving forward. But it's not just about pushing through the discomfort. It's about being kind to yourself along the way. So often, we're our harshest critics, beating ourselves up when things don't go as planned. But that doesn't help you move forward. What helps is recognizing that failure is just part of the process. It's not the end. It's a learning experience. Every mistake is a step toward success. You also need to stop comparing yourself to others. It's easy to look around and see people who seem to have it all together, people who seem to be getting everything right. But remember, everyone is fighting their own battles. Everyone has their own struggles, their own fears, and their own setbacks. You're not in competition with anyone but yourself. Focus on your own journey, and don't worry about how others are doing. You are where you are because of your unique experiences, and that's okay. Take your time, and don't rush the process. One of the most important things to realize is that self-sabotage doesn't define you. It's a pattern, a behavior that you can change. You're not stuck in it forever. It's like any other habit, it can be broken. And the more you take action, even if it's small, the more you begin to rewire your brain to recognize that action leads to progress. Slowly but surely, you'll start to see the results of your efforts. You'll start to feel more confident, more capable, and more empowered to tackle bigger challenges. In the end, the biggest thing holding you back is the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you keep telling yourself that you're a procrastinator, that you're someone who can't follow through, that you're not good enough, you'll never change. But if you tell yourself a different story, one where you're someone who takes action, who faces challenges head-on, and who doesn't give up, you'll start to become that person. The power to change is in your hands. It always has been. Stop waiting for permission. Stop sabotaging yourself. Take action. You're capable of so much more than you think. You've made progress, and now you're on the road to a new, better version of yourself. But here's the thing. That road is long, and it's not always easy to stay on track. It's easy to slip into old habits, especially when life gets busy or when the challenges seem bigger than you expected. The truth is, creating lasting change is about developing new routines and sticking to them, even when you'd rather fall back into the comfortable embrace of procrastination. That's where the power of routine comes in. Routines are the secret weapon to achieving the things you've been putting off for so long. They take the pressure off your brain to make decisions about what to do next. When you build routines, you don't have to think about whether you'll work on that project or go for a run. You just do it, because it's part of your day. The more you make something a routine, the less you have to fight against procrastination. It becomes second nature. But routines don't just magically happen. They require effort, discipline, and patience. You have to start somewhere. You can't expect to overhaul your entire life in a day, but you can start by making small, manageable changes. Start by committing to one thing. Maybe it's waking up 10 minutes earlier or writing for 20 minutes a day. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you make it part of your routine. Because once something becomes a habit, it no longer feels like a chore. It becomes something you just do. Building a new routine is never easy in the beginning. It feels awkward, even frustrating at times. You'll be tempted to fall back into old patterns, to hit snooze, to delay, to give in to what's familiar. And that's completely normal. That resistance you feel, it's not a sign of failure, it's a sign of change. That initial discomfort is proof that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, breaking away from automatic behaviors that no longer serve you. The key is to keep going, even when it's hard. Because with consistency, that struggle fades. What once felt forced becomes second nature. Eventually, your routine becomes less of a decision and more of a rhythm. It's just something you do, because it's who you've become. And once that routine is in place, the magic starts to happen. You'll notice that your days begin to feel more structured. You'll feel more in control, more productive, and more confident. That sense of overwhelm that used to paralyze you will start to fade away, because you're no longer relying on willpower or motivation to get things done. Your routine carries you forward, even when motivation is low. Routines aren't just about productivity, they're a safeguard against burnout. When you're not constantly battling procrastination or carrying tasks from one day to the next, everything gets lighter. You free up mental space, conserve your energy, and gain the clarity to focus on what really matters. Instead of being buried under a pile of unfinished work, you're able to move through your day with purpose and ease. That's the quiet power of consistency. It doesn't just help you get more done, it gives you your life back. One of the hardest things to accept is that there will be setbacks. You'll miss a day, you'll get distracted, you'll feel like giving up. But that's okay. Setbacks are a natural part of the process. What matters is that you don't let them derail your progress. When you slip up, just get back on track. Don't beat yourself up. The more you forgive yourself for those small mistakes, the easier it becomes to keep going. The key to success is not about being perfect. It's about getting back up every time you fall. It's important to remember that routines don't have to be rigid. They don't have to be set in stone. Life changes, and your routine should be flexible enough to adapt to those changes. The goal isn't to make your routine so rigid that it feels like another form of control. It's to make it fluid enough that it supports you, not stresses you out. As long as you're making progress and doing the things that matter, that's what counts. But routines aren't just about being productive. They're about creating space for the life you want. When you stop wasting time on distractions, when you stop putting things off for tomorrow, you start to realize that the life you've been dreaming of is within your reach. It's not some far-off goal that you'll achieve someday. It's a life you can begin living right now, through the small, consistent actions you take every day. By creating a routine, you're taking control of your time. You're not waiting for the perfect moment to start. You're starting now. And the more you stick to that routine, the more your future begins to take shape. You'll look back in a year and realize just how far you've come, not because you made huge leaps, but because you consistently took small steps in the right direction. And those small steps, over time, create a path that leads to the life you've always wanted. So, the next time you feel like procrastinating, remind yourself that routines are the antidote to hesitation. They take away the mental load of decision-making and make it easy to move forward. Start small. Start today, and before you know it, your routine will be carrying you toward your dreams. At some point along this journey, something shifts. You've taken action, you've created routines, and you've pushed through the discomfort. But then, you start to see the results. Those small actions, those tiny steps, begin to build on each other, and you realize, hey, it's actually happening. You're making progress. The life you've been putting off isn't so far away after all. It's right here, unfolding slowly but surely. It's no longer some far-off dream. It's becoming your reality. What's incredible about this transformation is how unnoticed it feels while it's happening. It's not like you wake up one day and everything is different. It's more like the slow bloom of a flower that you don't quite notice until it's in full bloom. You're so focused on taking that next step, on sticking to your routine, that you don't see the bigger picture until you take a moment to look around. At first, you may feel like the change is so small that it doesn't matter. A few more things checked off the to-do list, a few more habits ingrained, a little more consistency. It doesn't feel like the grand transformation you imagined. But that's the secret of real change. It's in the consistency. It's in the day-in, day-out effort that doesn't always look impressive but always adds up. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. You don't notice it at first, but over time, it gathers momentum. And when you look back, it's this enormous force that's carrying you forward. And it's in this moment, when you realize that you've been making progress all along, that the rewards of your hard work start to show up. They might be small at first. Maybe it's just feeling less stressed because you're no longer scrambling to catch up. Maybe it's the feeling of satisfaction you get from crossing things off your list, or the sense of control you now have over your own time. But those little rewards, those small victories, will keep you going. They build your confidence, and more importantly, they build your belief in yourself. Here's the truth. The biggest rewards in life don't come from perfection. They don't come from grand gestures or sudden breakthroughs. They come quietly, as a natural consequence of showing up, day after day, especially when it's hard, especially when it's uncomfortable. When you keep going even when you feel like giving up, something shifts. The rewards aren't just about external success. They're about how you evolve from the inside out. You start to build real trust in yourself. You begin to see that you're stronger, more capable, more resilient than you ever believed. And slowly, the life you thought was just out of reach doesn't feel so distant anymore. It becomes real, not through a single leap, but through every small, consistent step. You're not just waiting for your life to begin. You're living it, right here, right now. But that doesn't mean the work is over. Far from it. The truth is, you're always going to have to fight against procrastination. There will always be distractions, always be things that pull your attention away from your goals. But now, you're equipped to handle them. You know how to get back on track when you fall off. You've built habits, routines, and systems that will carry you through even when your motivation dips or life throws curveballs. What's most powerful about this process is the fact that you've built a new identity. You're no longer the person who procrastinates and puts things off. You're the person who takes action, who shows up, who makes progress every day. And once you've built that identity, once you've convinced yourself that you're the kind of person who gets things done, it's incredibly hard to go back. The momentum of your progress becomes unstoppable. The next step in this journey is to maintain what you've built. It's about continuing to show up every day, continuing to stick to your routines, continuing to make small progress in the direction of your dreams. The work doesn't stop, but it doesn't feel as hard as it once did. You've created a system that works for you, and now it's just about staying the course. One of the most rewarding things about this process is how it ripples outward. When you start taking control of your own life, when you start showing up and putting in the effort, you begin to see how it affects other areas of your life. The confidence you gain from taking action in one area spills over into others. Maybe you start eating healthier because you've developed the habit of following through. Maybe you take on a new project because you've proven to yourself that you can handle it. Your life begins to expand in ways you never thought possible because you've built the foundation of progress. But remember, the road won't always be smooth. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when you feel like you're back where you started. But when those moments come, remember how far you've come. Remember the progress you've already made, and trust that you can keep going. Because once you've made the decision to stop waiting and start acting, you can't help but keep moving forward. The best part is that you've learned the most important lesson. It's not about waiting for the perfect time. It's not about waiting for everything to line up. It's about showing up, taking small actions, and trusting that the life you want will unfold one step at a time. And as long as you keep moving forward, it will. By now, you've learned that change doesn't happen overnight. It's not about some big, magical moment where everything suddenly falls into place. It's about the quiet, steady progress, the moments where you're just showing up and doing the work, even when it doesn't feel like much. But now, there's a shift. You've moved past the early struggle. The routines are in place, the small habits are building, and most importantly, the idea of success doesn't feel as distant as it once did. It's within reach. This is the part of the journey where it starts to feel more real. No longer are you waiting for that perfect moment to make things happen. You're making things happen. And now that you've built momentum, it's time to shift your focus even further. It's time to take everything you've been working on and start thinking bigger. A lot of people get stuck in the idea that success is this final destination, like once you've made it, everything falls into place. But the truth is, success isn't a place. It's a process. It's the continuous cycle of pushing yourself, growing, and improving. It's knowing that no matter how far you've come, you still have more potential to unlock. That's where the real power lies, in the belief that you can always grow. At this point, the work doesn't feel like work anymore. It's just part of your life. What once felt like huge obstacles now seem like challenges you can handle. The fear and resistance that used to stop you no longer have the same hold on you. And even when you slip, even when things don't go exactly as planned, you've developed the resilience to get back up and keep going. That's the beauty of consistency. It's about building habits that carry you even when your motivation dips. Success may not be a final destination, but that doesn't mean you can move forward without direction. You need vision, a sense of where you're headed. Without it, it's easy to get caught up in daily routines and lose sight of your purpose. What are you really working toward? What's the bigger picture behind all the effort? Whether it's building a business, strengthening your relationships, improving your health, or chasing a personal goal, you need clarity. A vision gives your actions meaning. It reminds you why you started, and it keeps you grounded when motivation fades. The vision isn't about achieving perfection. It's about having a direction. It's about knowing that the work you're doing now, even if it doesn't feel important, is getting you closer to the life you want. And that vision has the power to propel you forward, even when things feel hard. It becomes the reminder that the effort you're putting in matters. It keeps you moving when procrastination tries to sneak back into your life. Now that you've built a foundation of good habits and routines, the next step is to challenge yourself. And no, I don't mean to push yourself to the breaking point. I mean that it's time to start raising your standards. When you were first starting out, it was enough to just show up. But now that you've created the momentum, it's time to ask more of yourself, to push the boundaries a little further, to take on bigger challenges and level up. This is the stage where growth starts to feel exponential. You've laid the groundwork, and now it's time to see how far you can go. You've learned that you don't have to wait for the perfect conditions. You've learned that success is about consistency, and that even small steps add up over time. Now, the question becomes, how much bigger can you dream? How much further can you push yourself? The more you stretch yourself, the more you realize that your potential is far greater than you ever thought. You've spent so much time believing that procrastination was holding you back, but now you see that it was never procrastination that was the problem. It was the lack of belief in your ability to push forward. And once you see that, the sky's the limit. But even with all this growth, it's important to keep grounded. Success is about balance. It's about knowing when to push and when to rest. You can't keep going full speed ahead without taking a step back to recharge. The key is not to burn yourself out in the pursuit of more. The goal is sustainable progress, not endless hustle. The beautiful part of this process is that you start to see the fruits of your labor. They might be small at first. Maybe it's finally completing a project that's been hanging over you. Or maybe you've hit a milestone in your personal goals. But those small victories add up, and they become the evidence that you're on the right path. As you continue down this road, you'll face new challenges. You'll encounter moments of doubt, moments where you'll question whether it's worth it. But what you'll also realize is that the old ways of procrastination, the old habits of self-sabotage, no longer have power over you. You've redefined who you are, and the person you've become knows that consistency, belief, and vision will carry you through. So what's next? Keep pushing, keep growing, keep showing up. Success is no longer about waiting for that perfect moment. It's about making every moment count. And every moment is a chance to keep moving toward the life you want, one action at a time. And here you are, at the finish line of this particular chapter in your life. Not that the journey is over, but you've made it through the hardest part. You've come to realize the truth. The price of procrastination isn't just wasted time. It's the life you could have had. But more importantly, you've learned that procrastination doesn't have to be permanent. The old habits, the excuses, the delay, all of that is in the past. You've shifted from a life of waiting to a life of action. The beauty of this transformation is that it wasn't about making huge changes all at once. It was about those small, seemingly insignificant decisions to show up, day in and day out. You didn't wait for the right moment. You created it by making consistent effort a part of your life. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing something, anything. And that's how you started building the life you always wanted. You'll continue to face distractions, setbacks, and the occasional moment of doubt. But the difference now is that you've built the foundation to deal with them. You've learned how to navigate the rough patches and how to keep going, even when the road gets tough. This is what progress looks like, showing up every day, even when it's hard, even when you feel like it's too much. And here's the thing, the journey doesn't end. It never does. There will always be new goals, new dreams, and new challenges. But the way you approach them has changed. You've learned that perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. And that progress comes from taking one step at a time, consistently, and without hesitation. The road ahead won't always be easy, but now you know how to handle it. One of the most powerful shifts you've made is in how you see time. Once, it felt like something that slipped away from you, a constant reminder of all the things you hadn't done. But now, you've learned how to use it. You've learned that time isn't your enemy. It's your ally, but only if you show up and make it count. Time doesn't wait for anyone. But when you take control, it becomes the vehicle that gets you where you want to go. And as you continue forward, remember this. You've already accomplished the hardest part. You've proven that you can change. You've shown yourself that procrastination doesn't have to define you, that you don't have to stay stuck in the cycle of delay. You've taken control of your time, your habits, and your life. And now, you get to enjoy the rewards of that hard work. You've learned that it's not about waiting for some perfect moment to act. It's about making the decision to start right now. It's about creating momentum, even in the smallest of steps. It's about recognizing that the life you want isn't some distant dream. It's here, right in front of you, waiting for you to step into it. So, as you move forward, take pride in the progress you've made. Celebrate the small victories, and keep pushing for the bigger ones. Keep showing up, keep taking action, and most of all, keep believing that the life you've always wanted is within your reach. The future is yours, and it starts today.